Folks, welcome back to the Doing It Diesel Shop. Snow and the economies of snow. That's what we're going to talk about today. Sunday morning, we got some snow last night, 3 inches. You may have seen our plow rig in a few other videos if you've been watching along. So we're going to go over that real quick. This is a real Johnny Cash truck. The body's a 1985 C10. Started life as a two-wheel drive out of Texas. 9'2" Boss VXT V-plow. And the truck itself is no less than 6 trucks put together. It's got some 3/4 ton parts in it. It's got some 1 ton parts in it. You know, the body started life as a 1/2 ton. And we got a 400 small block, 406 small block, and 400 horse or so with a Sniper EFI on it. I get the question a lot, why not a diesel? Well, the plow weighs 940 pounds, so small block is lightweight, light horsepower, and that's why it's still a gasser. So we're going to take you plowing today, and we're going to talk the economies of plowing. It's something I did for 10 years or a little better. But before we do that, we got to work on it. We got to work on it because we are minus mufflers, and like this, you're not going to hear anything I have to say. And the one. Maybe now the neighbors will start speaking to me again. No farm truck's complete without fence and wire. Now, driving this thing is kind of like driving a second generation Dodge diesel. Now, driving this thing is kind of like showing hogs at the county fair in 4-H. Now, driving this thing is kind of like being your captain of your own pirate ship. Now, we put this truck together in 2012, so 10 years. What it did teach me, the most valuable lesson it taught me, is that lifetime warranty parts from the local jobber houses are consumer grade. They're for that consumer price point, somebody that's not going to run it forever. I thought, oh, we could, I need a new truck. We'll build ourselves a new truck. And sooner or later you get tired of replacing stuff. Okay, so the change in back pressure or exhaust O2 content for the exhaust is so great the truck won't even run. We got to retune it. And I suspected that it was messing up the amount of oxygen for the O2 pretty good, but I would have never suspected this, that it wouldn't even run. So I pinched a fuel hose, moving that stuff around, trying to dodge a muffler. Boy, if that wasn't fun to figure out. We're going to back drag away from the building. I like to get this cleared off because the sun hits it pretty good, and even without salt it'll melt well into the teens in temperature. $600 for it. And the truck, I figure, spent about $10,000 putting it together. So I figure I had about $15,000 in the truck and the plow package together. On average, I figure it's cost me about $1,000 a year in maintenance. Most years are less than that, but I did put a transmission in it once, so we're on the second transmission. And last year we converted it to the Sniper EFI. I had transplanted a factory TBI into it, wired it up myself, but it couldn't handle the displacement and the cam and rocker ratio, because I got big tip roller rockers in this engine as well, and it was just a tuning nightmare. This lot, as you can see, is horribly shaped. On an average snow, I can clear it in about an hour. Today, it's probably going to be closer to 2. Now, when I was running a snow removal company, you get pretty good that you can just kind of hold your thumb up and tell yourself how long on average you think you're going to be there. Most of the time I prefer to do a per push type of bid. On the light snowfalls you win, you make more money, and on a heavy snowfall you lose. So between you and the customer, it averages out, and it eliminates any discrepancy between tiers when you have, well, it was 2 inches, it was 2.5 inches, you know, what's the next trigger mark, all of that. Figure it costs, so $15,000 in the truck, $500 a year in fuel for the last 10 years. That's $5,000. $1,000 in maintenance. That's $10,000. So fuel, basic maintenance, truck, about $30,000 has been spent. Plow pickups around here are well over 100 an hour, and given the poor conditions, the abuse of the vehicle, and the insurance and liability, it's well worth that sum. This lot, on an average per push, I think is pretty easily, as awkward as it is, and out in the location being very pretty remote, I'd say this is pretty easily a $300 lot. Average snowfalls, I think Madison is 37. So if you take that 37 over the last 10 years, 370 snowfalls at an average cost of $300, which maybe I'm high on that, but we'll get to that in a minute. What is that? A little over $100,000. Yeah, my math is right. We're doing this mentally, so forgive me. argument, let's call it half. So now you're down to 50,000 that you would have spent. You got 30,000 in the truck that you wouldn't have had. So now you're down to 20,000. Was my time worth it over the last 10 years? $20,000 in, it isn't earnings, it's, you know, money not spent. My time in the shop, you know, is worth about $100 an hour. So you could look at it that way. You know, I figure I'm money ahead. If you would have looked at it all spent working on customer stuff, you know, it'd probably be pretty close, but you can't work, you can't do mechanic work all day, every day. This, when I'm doing it for my own lot, with nothing to worry about but myself, it's no real significant pressure. There's no stress. I do it on my own time. There's nothing like doing it commercially. So it's not very strenuous. I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm money ahead. It paid me to own it. I mean, I still got the truck. I still got the plow. The plow is actually probably going up in value. Cantankerous enough that I do. We don't drive this truck. It's been retired strictly as a plow truck. I drove it for a little while when the shop truck was down this winter, just because I don't want to get other stuff into the salt. Did put a locking rear end in it. Well, not a locking rear end, we locked the rear end, the spool. We spooled the rear end this year. And it's not very street friendly, but it sure helps with pushing snow. This thing is a beast. It goes through. It'll drag the frame, you know, and keep clawing before it gets hung up. Say you want to get into that, there is good money to be had. Terrible conditions, really pretty dangerous in a lot of cases, unless you're not going to leave town. I got death stories, near-death experiences, stuck in blizzards, you know, blown off the road, driving down the wrong side on the divided highways, things like that. I could go on all afternoon. The problem is you start out, and I started out, I saw it as a way to turn something that would normally just be an expense, i.e. your pickup truck, be able to turn it into a profit. And in that regard, it worked pretty well. We did do that. It's kind of tough to run a company that profits 2.5 months of the year and hemorrhages money the other 9.5 months. But the big issue, the biggest obstacle you have to overcome is a lot of low budget guys, especially people losing their jobs, will go out and put a plow on their half ton. They're not sure, they don't know what they're doing, but they'll plow at a rate that you can't compete with, being legitimate with with even starting out, if you're just one truck. If you're legitimate and insured and paying taxes and everything, you can't compete with those guys. And you have to scrimp and, at least around here, you know, everything's localized, but you have to scrimp and starve until you make enough money and you build up manpower and equipment that fly-by-nighters can't compete with. There's nothing wrong, I'm not saying, with fly-by-night and helping a buddy out, you know, plowing his driveway for beer money, that sort of thing, but I'm talking to guys that try to call it a business or act like it's a business and they're not insured and not paying taxes on it and stuff. Well, there you have it. About 2 hours, so twice as long as the dusting. The truck's back in. We'll let it drip off and rust out some more and go back in the house.